Hey Mark.
Hello.
How are we doing?
I'm alright.
You alright?
Yeah. How are you?
Okay? I'm doing okay. I just gonna ask you a little question if that's okay.
Oh dear. It's just the moment where the podcast goes away.
Well, you never know. So there's something you've got into recently that isn't wrestling that I'm finding interesting. I'm interested to know how it sort of manifested itself.
Is this something I'm going to have to edit out of this podcast?
Yeah, it's alright, I do the editing, so you're fine.
Yeah.
It's Downton Abbey.
Oh!
Yeah, the
I was
new
worried
thing that's
there.
coming into our lives. So you've started watching Downton Abbey. Like, how long ago was it now?
I've been watching it like gradually throughout the year, like at a
At a pace.
modest pace, I
Yeah.
should say. Yeah, I'm just in season 2 now, so took a bit of a rest and started up season 2
So
now.
it just fascinates me a little bit because it's not the sort of thing that you would typically go for, like a period drama
Yes.
of that type. There was a time, do you remember, quite early on, when I made you watch all of the 1990s Pride and Prejudice, like every episode.
Yeah, I remember it well.
Yeah. And obviously you were fine because you were humouring me, but it wasn't the sort of thing that you would typically put on for yourself.
And the Tudors.
Oh yes, the Tudor. Yeah, but that was a bit more modern. It had Henry Cavill in.
But this is
And
from
Natalie
the same
Dormer.
period as the Tudors.
Yeah, but I've never seen... Put it this way, you're not someone who watches like Upstairs, Downstairs or all of that sort of stuff. I mean, I tried to get us to watch an episode of Hello Hello last night and you did go along with it for a little bit, but I got part way through and I thought, yeah, maybe we need to stop.
I would have watched another episode of Hello Hello.
I know. But do you know what I mean? Like, it's not the sort of thing that you would typically go towards.
Yes.
And I've just noticed that like on an evening it started to become really part of our lives, that we get to a point where there's, you know, maybe there's not anything much on or there's like a bit of a gap and then Downton Abbey comes on and it comes on, I find it comes on at like 9 o'clock at night. It's almost like you get to a point where you really need to relax and you stick a bit of Downton Abbey on, and it's not that you're doing it when I'm just sat in there, you're like going through, like when you put one on the other day and I was like, God, you've like really I know you're saying you're going at a moderate pace, but you've really sauntered through quite a few. I had to really think about where it was, and like cousin Matthew's gonna get married to Lady Lavinia or something like that, and I was like, she wasn't even in the last time I saw. So just how are you feeling about Downton?
So can I explain? I feel I need to defend myself about why I'm watching Downton Abbey. As mentioned previously on the podcast, I have a list of films that I need to watch, and I assemble that from a number of things like podcast top 10s and top box office films of the year. And last year, Downton: A New Era was one of the top 20 box office films for the year. So therefore, it goes on the list. But you can't watch it without context. So therefore, I have to go through and watch Downton from the beginning. I've also got through reasons like what's that film with with Lovejoy in? the
TV show?
Yeah, but there was also a film that was out a couple of years ago.
And he's like, is he a
Deadwood.
I was about to say, is he a cowboy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've also got that to watch because that TV movie
That's
was
meant
in
to be
like Rotten Tomatoes, it's films of the year or something like that. Yeah.
But the thing that really, it's not just that you're watching it because it's on a list, because you watch a lot of things that are on your lists that you just kind of watch and you don't really mention.
Yeah.
You are really enjoying this. Like, you get so much pleasure out of Downton Abbey. I can just see it in I can feel it like in your body language when we're on the sofa. So what is it about Downton Abbey that's really captured your imagination?
So I think it is this world that they live in, which is totally separate to anything we currently live in the modern world. And I can be a class warrior about this, but the idea of them going off to London for social season I find fascinating, and just leaving the staff behind. And then, so I had no idea what the season was. So then I'm Googling, like, what is social season? I'm like, oh yeah, it starts off at Royal Ascot and finishes with starts with the Lord's Test and finishes with Royal Ascot or whatever it is. And then, Sybil, you had a good season. And yes, yeah.
You seem to really enjoy the characters and I wonder if it's like the soapiness of it as well, which like you're not someone who watches soaps. I think this is why I find it fascinating. That it's very droll. There's some brilliant lines and it's very witty.
Yes.
But the characters are very largely drawn. Do you know what I mean? Like it's so Sybil is like the good-looking modern woman.
Yeah.
Edith is the put upon, like not as attractive, even though she's a beautiful looking woman, sister, and who will never get a husband, sort of thing. That's how she's been brought up. So those sorts of things are quite largely it's just not the sort of thing I see you being typically sort of drawn to.
It's British Mad Men, isn't it? Like, it is set in a period, like, things are going on in the background. So it starts off with the crash in the Titanic. We're then going through the war at the minute, when I'm watching the First World War, where, same with Mad Men, like, it starts off at a point and goes through, and people...
You think it's the historical, the real historical references?
Absolutely, yeah.
And the best thing about it for me is that you don't know, apart from one big event, you don't know what's going to happen. So for some reason, I mean, this is great for watching it.
Yeah.
You've just not picked up on those sort of cultural touch points that Downton has produced.
Yeah, I know cousin Matthew should probably take a train, but aside from that...
you don't know about, like, if I went there, this is no spot, but you don't know births, deaths and marriages. You don't know anything that's going to occur apart from one particular thing, which is brilliant for me because there's been like some major things that have occurred already that you're like, what? And I'm like, God, how have you not like sort of picked that up? Because other podcasts talk about these things quite a lot in a sort of a comedic way as well. So yeah, it's really, I know I'm taking the mick, but it's really nice to see you enjoying something that's quite light as well. It's not like a dark, dismal, horrific thing, the sort of stuff I would watch, like the true crime documentaries.
Yes.
It's like, and it's something I can sort of like pop in and out with as well. So like, I don't have to watch every episode with you, but when we do sit down and watch it, I might be tapping away on the laptop and I can sort of join in with the comedy. And
you are going to reveal a few things to me just because that's what you always do.
I have really tried not to, though, and I think I've done pretty well.
Yeah, but you will do at some point. It's just inevitable. As previously discussed on the podcast, you just cannot help yourself. You subconsciously just...
will shout a plot line out.
Yeah.
I think given that I know all the things that are going to happen, I think I've done pretty well so far.
Well done.
Pat me on the back. Thanks very much.
Well done.
So today's episode, we're going to move things around a little bit, because typically we would go straight into television.
Yeah.
And then go into film. But because we're going to do Succession and we're going to do a spoiler section for Succession, we want to stick that at the end of the podcast for anyone who hasn't seen Succession before or doesn't want to listen to the spoiler thing. So you can stop before the end of the podcast and go on your merry way. So we'll do films first.
Yep.
And we're gonna start with a film that again is something that I wouldn't have anticipated that you would have gone to.
Saturday night at the movies. Who cares what picture you see? When you're hugging with your baby, last row in the balcony.
Are you there, Elaine? It's me, Mark.
So, how many of you were there in your showing of Are You There? Is it Are You There, God? It's me. See, this is the thing, right? This book, when it came up, because obviously it's Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, is
Yes.
a film based on a book that came out many decades ago that was like this. It was meant to be the seminal book for teenage girls, but I never read it, and I never really knew what people were, it's one of those things where it just completely passes you by.
Yeah.
So it's not really meant for men in their 40s, what are we saying?
So, right, okay. Let me defend myself. So I'd never heard of this book growing up, and I think I probably only know about it because it was once an answer on Pointless. So I'd never heard of this book, never knew of it growing up, obviously was not the target audience, having not been, not currently, and probably never will be an 11-year-old girl. But this has had amazing reviews. It was 5 stars in Empire. Everyone's raving about it. So I had a spare afternoon and thought, just gotta see it. I walked into the theatre a little bit self-conscious about going to see this film, but it was
probably from me going, "What are you going to see? Are you going to see that?
Yeah,
Isn't that a book about girls?"
And there was me and one other bloke in the cinema who I would estimate to be late 50s, early 60s.
Interesting.
Proper target audience.
Isn't that interesting though? That's what the demographic was.
But I mean,
and that there were so few people in there.
You go see a film on a Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah.
You are often with, should we say, the more senior audience.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't wait to retire and do that.
I know. I bet you can.
But yeah, this is a coming-of-age story. It stars Abby Ryder Fortson, who was the daughter in the first two Iron Man films, playing Margaret, who is part of a mixed religion family. Her mother, played by Rachel McAdams, is a Christian. Her father, played by Benny Safdie, is Jewish. And they are moving from central Manhattan out to the suburbs in New Jersey. And her life, it's a slice of life showing how she comes to terms with moving away from her friends, moving away from her grandma, who's played by Kathy Bates. Absolute show-stealing performance from her. This is lovely. It's not perfect. There is issues with the plot. Like we spend a lot of time with her at school with her friends, and like we see that that idea. It's the most real realization of like groups of friends at school I've ever seen.
In terms of sort of the friendships waning, or people like picking on each other, or what is it about the friendship?
It's the dynamic. It's the if you want to be our friend, you need to do this.
Right.
And that's exactly how it was with me at school. Like that was we had a little gang called I can't remember what it was. A really random name for a gang, which someone just made up, like the bossy one out of our group. I'm not going to name on the podcast. You might be listening. You know you are. And it's nice. Like I think if this is like a boys' film, one of these friends turns out to be an absolute dickhead.
Okay.
And like it turns out to be a real bullying thing, but it never becomes that. Like there is people in their class that are a little bit different to them, and it deals with like bodies changing and things like that, which as a 42-year-old man sitting in a thing with little girls talking about, like 11-year-old girls talking about getting the periods and wearing bras, I think it's quite sad that in modern times I have to feel like a little bit self-conscious about that. Yeah. But the fact that I do feel self-conscious is probably a good thing about it. But this is lovely. And I think we always say there's such a scarcity of good films for like young girls. Like boys are really, really like well catered for.
Yeah.
However, if you look at like this, you look at 8th grade, you look at Booksmart, and you look at Lady Bird. I mean, there's 4 excellent films that have been released, and I just don't think there is an equivalent for young boys.
Yeah.
Like certainly who might be dealing with a hard time growing up and finding themselves a bit different from everyone around them. Like I say, I think the final act of this kind of forgets everything that's gone through and just kind of, I anticipate it's trying to get a big bit from the book into the film.
Right.
And the friendship circle is kind of forgotten about until the end, but this is an awesome film. Like, it's so sweet, and if I was an 11-year-old girl, this would be my favourite film ever. I think you would enjoy it.
I'm sure I would. I think there's the hangover from the book for me, because I didn't read the book. Those were not the sort of books that I went to as a child. We had one of our mates around the other day and we were talking about this, and I was very much into like the hot point horror from the 90s, or all these YA horror books.
Which I'd never heard of.
Which you'd never heard of, which I still can't understand how that happened. And there was like Sweet Valley High and things like that, which again, I didn't go down that route. I went more towards the darker side of town. So it just sort of bypassed me, and I was never really into that sort of like friendship group of girls and growing up, and you know, that sort of thing just didn't.
I was never a fan of growing up.
I was never interested in that as books as a teenager. So I think that I've got that blockage of, well, it wasn't a book for me, and everyone... I think the other thing is, this is a very personal thing, if everyone's going on about it, I am less likely to want to go and either read it or see the film. And you know this from like TV shows.
Let's understand what's going on with your brain now.
Yeah, if it's like this massively popular thing, I'll just kind of go, oh well, I'll just miss that out. I want to go for the thing that's a little bit more underground. So I think I've got that sort of blockage as well. I will probably watch it one night when it comes out on, you know, the streaming services, but it's not something that I would naturally go towards. I've seen some people and friends that I know who have got daughters who are teenagers or young women who have watched it together, who have said it was a lovely experience to do that, which I think that's lovely.
I can understand that, yeah.
So maybe, you know, if that was in my world, then that would be more, I would be more inclined to do it. But I'm glad you enjoyed it. Like, I know I'm obviously I've had a bit of a go of you for Downton, and now I'm talking about this, but I think it's really lovely that you went and sort of appreciated it for what it is, without all of that, you know, without taking on board all of that baggage.
Yeah.
And you enjoyed it as well, and it was a nice quiet showing for you.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone must have been away at social season, but yeah, we're getting to that time of year. There's loads of tests on at the minute, so yeah.
Right, what are we doing next? For something completely different? Do you want to do Fast X?
Let's do Fast X.
Oh, do we have to call it Fast 10? Because apparently that's what it's called.
Well, yeah,
but I'm going to call it Fast X just to, you know, like, be different.
We don't go Superman I, do we?
Well, I might now.
Or Star Wars If A New Hope. Like, why do people have so much problems with calling it?
Just because it's Fast X, it's just quicker, isn't it? Fast X. And that's why they've done it like that. They haven't done Fast 9 as in, like, whatever it is. It's V111, is that 9? Yeah, anyway.
No,
oh, that's 8. Yes. Yeah. Good. I'm glad I'm not in charge of the marketing. Right, so anyway, Fast X, Vin Diesel, family. We've both seen it, which is nice. We've been in cinema.
So yeah, the 10th instalment, 11th if you count Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah. Do you count Hobbs and Shaw? As part of it, okay.
Yeah. The 11th instalment in the Fast franchise. How many of these have you seen?
Ooh, now, this is difficult because I don't know what they're all called. But I really love the first one. Still don't quite know what that is. Is it The Fast and the Furious? The first one. Okay, I'll just call it. But then it kind of moves to Fast and Furious and things like that, doesn't it? Anyway, I've seen the first one.
Yeah.
I may have seen one of the interim-y ones, like Fast 4 or something like that. I definitely didn't see the one Tokyo Drift.
And I haven't seen Tokyo Drift.
That one. I've seen a lot more of the later ones, but I couldn't tell you what the numbers are. Like, I'm sure I've seen 8, and I've definitely seen 9 because I think we went to see that and talked about it on the podcast. And I'm sure I've seen 8, but 6, 7, 5. I mean, it just kind of blurs into one for me.
So this is a villain from who is retrofitted into a previous film.
Yes.
Which is Fast 5.
Which I have not seen, because I did not know anything about this setup in Fast X.
Okay. Coming back for vengeance against the family and anyone who's ever spent any time with them.
Yes. Sorry. I just love this franchise.
What did you think? Giving your review away just there.
Yeah. You know what? I think you have to go into this with the biggest, well, let's put it this way. I wouldn't do this because I don't eat in the cinema, but with a big box of popcorn and a massive drink and a smile on your face, and you've just got to kind of go with it. And that's what I do with these films. I go in and it's not the sort of film where I would worry if someone was sat in front of me with their phone on, even though that would still be annoying. But you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to go in and I'm going to just let it, whatever's going to happen is just going to wash all over me. I'm not going to come out of the film and be thinking about it for weeks on end or being really trying to overanalyze it. I'm just going to go in there and it's going to be big and it's going to be bombastic, and Vin Diesel's going to be running around trying to do something with his family. People who were baddies are now goodies. People who are goodies might have amnesia. It's all of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Rolled into one. I thought this was absolutely fine. Right, that's my review is it was fine. I felt there was a lot of cribbing from other films. There was a massive Nolan influence in it, and not necessarily in a good way. The baddie. No, Christopher Nolan.
Oh, right.
Christopher Nolan. What do you mean?
I was just trying to get a joke in.
What's a Nolan?
Like
oh,
the
like
Nolan.
the Nolans.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that fell flat on its arse, didn't it?
Sorry. Christopher Nolan. Well, the baddie really reminded me of, and the baddie played by Jason Momoa, Dante. The names are also great. Really reminded me of a very, very broad takeoff of Heath Ledger's Joker. There were some weird, almost like Indiana Jones-esque things with a big ball rolling through Rome. It just was like, oh, here's a bit of that film, here's a bit of this, here's a bit of Mission Impossible, let's shove it all together. I thought Jason Momoa was having a brilliant time, but I sort of felt the brilliant time he was having, and it jarred a little with the rest of the film.
So that's interesting, because I think Jason Momoa is getting universal praise for his portrayal as Dante. I hated every single thing about his performance.
Okay.
It felt to me, and the thing that everyone's referencing was the thing I felt of, like, a 1960s Batman villain, and it feels like he's playing Cesar Romero.
Yes.
But to me, he also felt like someone who'd read the first few chapters of the game. Do you know what I mean by the game?
Not the game as in Michael Douglas.
No. Okay. The mid-2000s pickup manual.
Oh, men going and getting women, sort of.
Yeah, did you ever read it?
No, I mean, come on.
But
I'd not read it.
I think it became a bit of a cultural phenomenon, and it was, so if you go in and drop the girl, you don't like a bit of an insult, and like it's horrible, thing. Yeah. And wear a bit of nail varnish just to like.
So you show your feminine side.
It's like like create an attraction to yourself and things like that. And
okay, that's weird.
It's horrific, and I'm pretty sure that the entire incel population have come from that. But that's all it reminded me of. Just these.
That's really interesting then, that both of us sort of, you're stronger than me, but you're right, there has been universal praise, and everyone's like, oh, he's like saving the franchise and he's such a different villain. And I think that's because villains, typically in a lot of films now, the villains are very vanilla. Yeah. And you just get big baddie, there's not really much to it, maybe they've got a small bit backstory, but you could they're interchangeable.
Well, half the time they join the family and
yeah, that's right. Yeah, because people are saying that as well. That like some of the reviews were saying, oh, I'm sure like in part 2, we'll come back to that in a minute. Okay. In part 2, he'll switch and he will become part of the family.
Well, I wonder if he'll have a personality bypass or transplant like John Cena's character has.
I know. Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, and it does frustrate me. Then
who in Fast 9? Like we've covered that on the podcast. I'm pretty sure, and we were saying, why have they taken such a charismatic like comedy like. Comedy performer such as John Cena, and then just make him this moody, totally miscast.
Your brother, and he doesn't look like his brother. Anyway.
And now he's like life and soul of the party.
Uncle.
Yeah.
Comedy, which he plays really well.
For comedy subplot, yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? But I really hope that doesn't happen.
You've got people coming back from former films to the point where I don't even know if they were in something or not. It's got to the Saw franchise levels of this one person who was in the background of film 4 now comes back and is a major role.
I thought Brie Larson either was underserved or was terrible. I can't quite understand where I fit on that, because every time she came on screen, it just didn't. It was like, oh, you have that sort of cringe factor. Yeah. And I didn't know whether it was the words that she was speaking or the fact that I could just see in her face that she was acting and acting not in a very naturalistic way. So it might be the whole thing. But you're right, there's someone at the end who pops up in a... what's that thing that goes underwater and then pops up with a periscope?
Submarine.
Thank you. Someone pops up in a submarine, and I was like, oh, that's so and so. Oh, was she in something? Right, okay. And then apparently she's dead, and that's this franchise. I still say it's fine, and I still enjoyed my little trip to the cinema to sit in this. I haven't really needed to think about it since then.
Trivia question. How many WWE champions have been in the Fast franchise?
Oh, so John Cena obviously has been in.
Yeah.
I cannot think of anyone. Oh, The Rock.
The Rock was
The
it,
Rock, yeah. I'm trying to think of other wrestlers that It's just Triple H being in.
No.
Are we women as well?
Women, yeah.
I can't think of any. I can't think of.
Yeah, Brie Larson's still awaiting
Sasha
her.
Banks, like that. Go on then.
At 4.
Okay.
So The Rock and John Cena. Roman Reigns was in Hobbs and Shaw.
Oh, right.
They took him to Samoa, and he was heavily featured in the trailer. And all the shots from the trailer for that split second he was on it are in the film, and nothing much else. And Ronda Rousey was in
That's who I was trying to find in my brain.
6 or 7 or something like that. Yeah, that was that got me going when I. But yeah, I think this is. They somehow managed to go one up on the action. You know, there is bits where cars jump off things and hit things.
It just doesn't. It doesn't ring true though. Like I mean, the space thing.
Sorry,
completely lost me.
Did you want legitimate?
The physics of it, and I mean, I know they say it in the film, and that everyone's got to pull this line, and it's in the trailers of like, you know, against the laws of physics and the laws of, and I just don't believe any of it. I'd like some believability, at least with Mission Impossible. I know Tom Cruise is probably doing the most dangerous thing that anyone's ever done, and there's some level of, you know, sort of like legitimacy to it, but this, like, things were moving in a way that just felt so CGI. And I talk about the whole part 1 part 2 thing.
You weren't aware then?
Wasn't aware.
A lot of people in that. I knew. I knew.
Know?
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of TV and film podcasts, right? I read a lot of stuff, and it must have just completely bypassed me, because it got to the end of the film and then it just stopped, and I was like, A, have I missed something? Or B, has something happened with the projection, that there's something's like it's jumped in time and now it's just finished? I was really confused by the act. I think I might have, like, because there's hardly anyone in my show, I think I might have just said, what? Like, to myself. So there's going to be another one. Because it ends in a very odd. I mean, people are meant to be dead that clearly aren't going to be dead, and something terrible is about to happen to Vin, and it isn't going to happen.
The problem is, I think there are people who I have confidence are dead in this, and there are people who I have no confidence in being dead.
Yeah.
People are killed off screen, which I'm like, they're not dead
straight away.
Yeah, but there are people where I've heard people say, well, other people are going to come back, and I'm not convinced that's the case. I think there is people. Yeah, but I mean, God, if they can bring back... But does it really
matter?
Yeah,
and that's the problem now. Does it really matter? I think we might have... I know they're saying this is wrapping it up, but I think we might have reached the end here now.
Oh, yeah, I mean, this is the plan, isn't it? That there's one more, and then they move on to either a...
like spin-offs.
Yeah, spin-offs and things like that. Yeah. But yeah, I think... Mind you, I thought that after... Fast 2,
you do think like the end, but then the amount of money that it brings in, has it done well in the box office?
It's done okay. However, that has to be offset against how much money these cost to bring in every actor ever to appear in them. So I think it's made a lot of money worldwide. It's sort of underperformed in the States, but like it will be in profit by the end of time, as much as a film can ever be in profit.
Go on.
Do you know what film is making a hell of a lot of money? And also...
I was about to say, we've got a real diversity of film coverage this week.
And also might surprise some people in my screening at the end of it.
Yeah.
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Did you ever watch the first Spider-Man?
No, right. And I feel like I've let myself down, because everyone has gone on about how brilliant it is.
You've totally let yourself
And
down.
I have let myself
Hang your head
down,
in shame.
I know. And as a film fan, I do kind of feel that I should really, and I really like the superhero films, and I like the whole idea of superheroes and that sort of thing. So it does lend itself to me. But for some reason, I just haven't sat down and watched it. But I remember you seeing it and coming back and absolutely raving about it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse being one of the highlights of 2018, which seems a long time ago now.
A long time ago, actually.
That's the story of Miles Morales, who is a comic book Spider-Man, one of the, like a young black Spider-Man, developing powers, and however there is problems with the multiverse. So this was kind of the first thing that went into the multiverse that I can think of. Yeah. Now every fucking film has it.
Oh, I know,
but,
doesn't it? I know.
Yeah. This is the sequel. Bigger, better, louder.
One of the things about the first film that I remember is that it played with different media, let's say, within the animation genre. So my understanding was that things looked very different, and there was. Go on, you were going to explain it. I'm finding out how to describe, so I was going to shove it over to you so I can start speaking. But so there might be something in black and white in a manga style. There might be something in an old school, almost like Scooby-Doo sort of style. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that is so. This, if we contrast it against Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, where you go to a different multiverse, and there was obviously that thing where they went through all the multiverses and it was a split second, and there was a thing where everyone was a blob of paint, and there was a thing where I think they went in the background and one was like a comic book background.
Yeah. Dinosaurs.
This is an entire film of that. And so we get characters from different multiverses, and that's represented in the art that is on screen. So we get Haley Stansfield plays Gwen Stacy.
Haley Steinfeld.
Yes, did I not say that?
I think it said Haley Stansfield, like Lisa Stansfield.
That's her daughter, yeah. Haley Steinfeld plays Gwen Stacy in a universe where Gwen Stacy becomes Spider-Woman. And her world is represented in very watercolour, I'm going to say illusionist, impressionist kind of backgrounds and things like that. And the emotions that she has is reflected in sort of how abstract the backgrounds are. So as things get more emotional, the backgrounds get more sort of mixed together and things like that. Whereas in Miles Morales' world, it is a more traditional comic book look, and everyone's kind of face is kind of, it's got those little dots on, like a pop art, like the printing of it. There is a punk character that turns up where it's all very paper laid on paper, like a front cover of Nevermind the Bollocks, for example. A lot of films, when it's really good and you just look at a shot and you think, I could put that on my living room wall.
Yes, yeah.
The thing to say about this film is it is absolutely beautiful, and there's probably one of them every 2 minutes. This is an absolutely outstanding achievement in film. Added to it, this adds emotion. There is a story of a young kid just getting to know himself and having to deal with his parents, and I think the representation of the relationship between Miles Morales and his parents is done better than we see with, for example, Tom Holland and Aunt May, who is...
Marissa Tomei.
Marissa Tomei, thank you. Yeah. I think that relationship works better. We also see, this is very much a Gwen Stacy film as well. We spend a lot of time with her at the beginning of the film. She was a smaller part of Into the Spider-Verse. Across the Spider-Verse, it's almost a joint lead performance. This film continues to be absolutely meta, as it can be. The same way that Multiverse of Madness had that scene where Mr. Fantastic pops up and the Mr. X. Yeah. This has this all the way through, and ingeniously. You've never read comic books, have you?
Haven't, no.
Quite often, because the lore of comic books is so mixed up, they will put a little note in the corner of the frame where it's kind of like editor's note. This happened in issue 472.
Yeah.
They do that on screen.
Right.
I want to go through this film like on slow motion.
I can imagine that, yeah.
Because there is so much in the background, and just when you see these worlds, and there's so many like different Spider-Men that you just sort of catch a glimpse of, like, what's that? And then gone. There is a Spider-Man from the 80s cartoon. There is a Spider-Man from like the modern cartoons. There is so much to see and do. The challenge around this film is the length, and we normally go to films on a Saturday or a Sunday, and probably an early performance if we can. Yeah. And typically, I went to see Guardians of the Galaxy. There was about 12 people in.
Yeah, same here.
I walked in. It was like the fucking Blazing Squad had turned up. This is playing for kids, and the thing was full. I booked my normal seat early in the back row middle. Walked up the stairs, went nope. Turned around and found a seat at the front and changed my seat on the Odeon app, which was more than welcome. Because all the kids had like a gallon good bucket of popcorn and a vat of Coke, and I was like, nope, that's not what I want to do. The problem with this is the length. It's 2 hours 20, and I think that felt long to me. There is a lot to tell, and this is another film where we get an ending that is to be continued.
Okay, I understand is it meant to be a trilogy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an Empire Strikes Back ending.
Okay, right.
And there was what I would estimate to be a 6-year-old girl behind me who it was just too much for.
Too much, yeah.
The dad was clearly enjoying the film and wanted to stay, but the girl was just like, "What's happening? What's happening? What's happening?" And that was. I also heard, "Don't eat that. That's gross." So I don't know what she was doing, but answer the first card.
Not for a 6-year-old. Definitely not. No. Yeah.
But
and a long film for kids.
This is an absolute triumph. I don't think I can give it 5 stars because it's not a complete film. So for me, I feel that this is like one step below it.
Because it's a setup.
Yeah, it's a setup.
Yeah.
But this gives me all the laughs, all the emotions, all the feels, and is an absolutely stunning portrayal. This is the film that I was hoping Multiverse of Madness would be.
Okay.
This is the film that things could be. It's meta, but it's also meta on meta, so it goes into ways to explain comic book tropes and things like that. So I don't want to go into just go see this. I would recommend this to any single person apart from you.
Why?
It's a lot.
Is it sensory overload?
It's very, yes.
Right.
I think you would have to watch this at home in about 20-minute chunks.
Yeah, sounds
because
right.
There is so much going on screen, and it is kind of like mainlining a Red Bull and vodka and probably something else that you get from a man down the seaside.
So that's interesting, isn't it? That there will be certain films that will appeal to people with neurodiversity, and there'll be some that neurodiverse people will find it difficult to sort of stomach all in one go.
Yeah.
So this might be one of them.
I think that is the problem. It never stops, and there are moments where it sort of takes time to sort of just ponder on itself, and that's beautiful. But the action sequences, I mean, this makes the fast movies look quite understated.
Okay, because I can cope with them. Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah. All right. Interesting. Because I will watch the first one again, because I'd like to watch the second one with you when it comes out, because it's one that clearly you want to watch again to catch all the bits and pieces, and I like that sort of thing as well, sort of finding things. But I'll watch the first one and I'll see how it feels. Do you think the second one is more overwhelming than the first one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Right. Wow.
Yeah. Okay. But like I said, give it a go.
Yeah, and give it.
I think you would. I think you would get a lot out of it. It is just that visual style, which is going to be
interesting.
Yeah.
Right, shall we move on to television?
Yes, let's do that.
Watching television.
You want to start with? Let's see if I can get this right. I think you should leave with Tim Robinson.
Yes.
Right, good, excellent. I've learned.
Genuinely my favourite sketch comedy of all time.
You've talked about this before on the podcast. Remind us what I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson is about.
Yeah, so it's a sketch comedy programme. So it's
Yeah,
not
you
about
said
anything
that.
in particular.
You said that.
It's a number of different comedy sketches. They're all kind of, I guess, mostly based around like social anxiety. The beauty of this is that it plays on comic tropes. So you get for example, one scene this season, people are at a party and loads of people just chatting, and Jason Schwartzman's there and says, talking about his kids, and he's like, "Oh God, please stop me whenever I mention my kids." So Tim Robinson is part of this group. You see him like go, "Right, I've got you." Funny in itself.
Yeah.
But then as the sketch goes on, it comes more about how Tim Robinson is distracting people from the party. Whenever he hears Jason Schwartzman mention his kids, like creating distractions to stop him from talking about his kids, and how he deals with that, and how he becomes like the fun person at the party, and how he has to deal with like people attaching themselves to him. Literally every single episode makes me laugh out loud, which is standard, but you know, the minimum.
Nice,
yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I think the beauty of these is that they're only 15 minutes long. So this came out last week. I've already finished the season, 6 episodes,
Wow.
and it's less than like most films because it's only 90 minutes in total. I just watch it like it's so easy, like bite-sized comedy. You can fit it in. I could fit it in when you take Blake upstairs to go to take him to bed, and then you come down in like hating your life because he won't go to sleep. I've already watched it by that point, so I'm like, yeah, I'll go and
It puts you in a good mood.
Yeah. This is series. It's on Netflix. There's 3 seasons there now. I think this is probably the season I identify with least. But then I've not had loads of people using sketches from this season as memes. There's one on a drive-in, and it's brilliant just the way it works. Like
It's one of those things where I think if you describe what it is, it then becomes instantly unfunny, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you've seen Hot Dog Car, haven't you?
I have. I mean, yes,
Which has become like an internet meme in
Yeah.
itself of people becoming the problem that they are explaining.
Mm-hmm.
And you've seen the Haunted House one as well?
I found, yes, I do remember something like
You
that.
sympathise with Tim Robinson in that, which is going to be
I think
the problem.
the interesting thing of sometimes when I catch it is I do empathise with the characters that are meant to be, like when you say there that Jason Schwartzman says, "Oh, stop me if I mention my kids," I would be that, but like instantly my brain would be like, "All right then." And I would want to go up to him and say, "You're talking about your kids and you've said to stop." So, like, obviously, taking it literally. So I find that really funny because I do, like, it resonates with me. What I then don't really necessarily need is for it to escalate to something that becomes completely wacky.
Yes.
So I'm not entirely, I mean, you know me in comedy, we're not friends.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad that you like it and so many people are enjoying it as well. It's got some really good reviews.
Yeah, I mean, he was fired from Saturday Night Live for being too weird, apparently. Like, he was a writer on there.
I quite like that.
And yeah, I like that fact. Yeah, I think it's, yeah. But yeah, it's on Netflix, like 15 minutes an episode. Who will be the baby of the year? Like, baby of the year is in season 1, and it's like, it's just to play on awards shows.
You're literally now just saying things from the show.
Yes, yeah. It just hits every single like trope around socials and media and things like that. Yeah. Coffin drop.
Doesn't make any sense. You can't just...
But you know exactly what I mean.
No, I don't.
You've seen it.
I can't remember that at
Okay.
all. So now
You will do after
yeah,
this.
I know I will. Oh no, I just know you're going to do that. Well, for something completely different, shall we talk about Silo, which is a new, let's say, should we call it dystopian, future, sci-fi possibly, drama that has landed on Apple TV?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
That's an interesting yes,
Yes,
isn't
it
it?
has.
Yeah. So the background to this is that I heard people on other podcasts talking about it and talking about it with real sort of passion and saying it was going to be one of their top TV shows of the year. And I thought, I'll just give it a go, because I do like a little bit of like alternative future or dystopian future. I do like that concept of what if, and things that aren't too far away from our current world. If it's like
too far away from our current world, should we just explain the premise of this?
This is what I'm getting to. This is what I'm getting to. So the silo, and I think you have to be quite careful about it, about how far you go. The premise of the silo is that, and we don't know when this is set, but we're presuming it's sometime in the future. We are told, or so the 10,000 inhabitants of this underground bunker, essentially this silo, are told that they can't go outside because there's something wrong with the atmosphere. So they live in this man-made bunker, which has this spiral staircase running all the way through it. It's like a hole has been drilled into the ground, and each level is almost like a different culture or subculture, or you've got the mids, you've got it's a little bit like a class system as well. People who work down deep are seen as almost like the working class, the people who are up top or having the executive roles. And the one thing that we know that you can't do is say that you want to go outside. There is almost like a biblical or a religious book, there's this pact that specifically says if you say you want to go outside, then you are made to go outside. That is it. It's a death sentence. And they say that they hope that the person who's going outside will clean, and by that they mean clean the camera that shows the outdoors, because over time, when someone hasn't been sent out, the camera gets very dirty. So they say, we hope you will clean. You don't have to clean, but we hope you'll clean. And of course, everyone cleans. And one of the central mysteries, well, why do they clean the camera if they're really angry, for example, at being given this death sentence? I'm going to leave it there because there's so much more to it. I think it's one of those shows where you should just go in as quietly and as blindly as you possibly can do to really be taken away with all of the mysteries that are there. I absolutely loved this when I watched the first episode, and I was just swept up in it, and I wanted to watch the second one, and then I just ended up watching 3 in one day, and then I got to a point where I think it was about episode 5 or something, and I was like ready to watch episode 6, and then realised it wasn't there. I then said to you, you've got to watch Silo. It's just, the acting's brilliant, the premise is brilliant, the world building, just, I had so much to say about how much I loved it. And then you went off and watched an episode, and I was like ready for like, oh well, I'll go back and watch it again because I think I've missed something. And then you turned around to me and went, I won't be watching anymore.
Yeah, that sounds like me, yeah.
I'm really surprised at this because this is prestige television, it's Apple TV, it's got this fantastic, I mean, you believe they're in this, or at least I do, you might don't do now, but you believe they're in this underground world. It's just the acting super. I mean, you've got people like David Oyelowo, you've got Rashida Jones, you've got Rebecca Ferguson,
not that one,
and like Tim Robbins. I was going to say Tim Robinson, but
yes, that would make it a better show.
And Common, and there's all these people, and they're doing a fantastic job in my view. Why have you stopped watching this? What don't you like about it?
So,
because you clearly don't.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I don't. Look, and I will say now, I am in the minority on this one. Everyone is raving over it. Don't let me put you off, because there are so many people on this that are getting a lot out of it. So, yeah. However, I went in knowing absolutely nothing other than the name of the show, and I think knowing that Michelle Monaghan was in it.
Oh, is she?
No, Rebecca Ferguson. They're the same person to me. Yeah. You know them people on Mission Impossible?
Mission Impossible, I'm about to say.
Yeah. And I saw dystopian sci-fi, and my heart sank.
Why don't you like dystopian sci-fi or dystopian sort of fiction?
No, I've just seen too much of it.
Because you've seen The Handmaid's Tale, haven't you? Which is you could put into that. Or there's a
no,
lot of truth in it.
So this is a high concept thing, and it just reeks to me of all these post-Lost TV shows that I got into, and been burned by. Revolution,
Yeah.
Flash Forward, fucking Alcatraz. That one, that one, I can't believe the time I wasted on that shite. Even Heroes, Heroes had an amazing first season.
Brilliant first season.
And then at the point where he flew up in the sky, spoilers for Heroes, but they spoiled it. It just fell apart. Everything about this just annoyed me. I quite enjoyed the first episode as a concept and everything like that, but I hated the world that they were building. And then I did watch the second episode, and I hated the sort of semi-reveal that they did. There is something that is kind of... We see something from a different point of view, shall we say. And I hated that because I thought that's too much too soon, and it seems like it's creating mystery for mystery's sake.
Okay.
The reason I did watch the second episode is because this is showrun by Graham Yost, who... Do you know who he is?
Nope.
He was a showrunner on Justified.
Oh, okay.
So
right.
I feel if I could give this a bit of time, I might find something in it. But I've just got too much to watch at the minute. This isn't for me. I think it's missing. I can see how people are enjoying this. For me, it's 14 times bitten, 15 times shy on these high concept TV shows. Yeah, mystery box TV shows that I have absolutely no confidence in them pulling off. And if they do, then that's fine. I'll go back and watch it.
Yeah.
But nah, not for me.
Okay.
I don't like... The first episode finishes with kind of a reveal. But the reveal is kind of it's the actress that you know. There is this kind of swinging around, and I don't think it's well to say it's Rebecca Ferguson's character. And then it's stops there, almost like it's a cliffhanger. It's no, we've never seen her before. The entire thing is she's that woman from Mission Impossible that Mark's going to get mixed up with his former wife at some point in the future. I think it looks... I'm not interested by the world at all.
You're not really not the different places, and if you go up different levels, then it takes a day to walk the whole of the silo, so people have to stay overnight on certain levels on the way down.
It
or
seems
on the way
to
up.
me The Expanse, which is something that I've watched recently. I think it does the class system far better than I saw in this. Having only seen 2 episodes, but yeah. Because that has sort of Earth being the rich, and then there's the Belters who are lower class, and I think the world seemed better to me in that. I don't believe a lot of the lore that they've painted in the first thing. I don't want to go too far into it, but no one really knows where this world has come from. Should we say?
Yeah. There is no history. There's no recorded history.
How did that happen? And I'm sure that'll be explained at some point.
That's one of the mysteries I really, really enjoy.
But it's the mystery that I don't buy. Okay. Because you can burn all the history books in the world. I could burn all the history books in the world now. Yeah. No one would go... it wouldn't be we wake up next day and go, shit, what happened in 1066? Because I know what happened in 1066. And I don't... That might be explained, but I already get that feeling, with Alcatraz, with Revolution, with Flash Forward. Bullshit alerts going off. Okay. And that is why I'm not going to be going forward watching this.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I've just sort of parked all of that to one side, and I know where you're going, because I think if you think about it scientifically, you would be like, oh yes, well of course there would be someone who would maybe have been a child at the time that's now grown up that would have it hasn't just started from year 0, and of course there must be some kind of history somewhere. Yeah. Although those people might subsequently have died, and now we're moving on in the future. I've been able to park all of that, and I've really enjoyed all the little sub-mysteries that have come out as well about, we, again, not going into any spoilers, but in the first couple of episodes you're introduced to various parts of the silo, and then in later episodes you get to see other ones that maybe you didn't know existed. So I'm really enjoying those little reveals and think, where did that come from? I do like that sort of stuff, and I feel that I have confidence in this. I really feel that there's been a lot of work done. I think the acting and the actors and the people who are involved, I think the writing's really good. I'm going to say that it's not like a 5-star blow me away sort of thing, because in some of the middle episodes, so sort of the 4-5, I did find myself sort of losing attention a little bit. Some of the characters aren't as well drawn as others. but the mysteries that they're bringing it, so every now and again someone will show you a door and it's like, what's behind that door? And I like stuff like that. So then it sort of brings me along and I go, oh, okay, right, I just kind of want to get to the end.
Is it the centre of a maze?
There is.
In someone's mind. And,
There is part of me that just wants to blooming read the Wikipedia entry and find out what the hell's going on. I'm having to really try not to do that. And this is being released weekly. So I'm having to really, really hold on to it because it's based on a book. And one of the reasons I was a little bit more interested in this was based on a self-published book. So someone had written it, put it up on Amazon for people to read on their Kindles, and it had become an overnight sensation. And then my understanding was that when they then signed up with an agent and a publisher, they retained the e-publishing rights, and because they were making so much money through, the electronic publishing. So that
and we've
in
never been
itself
let down by anything previously self-published books, have we? 50 Shades of Grey.
But yeah, it's clearly a phenomenon. And I mean, there are more of this isn't just it. There is more of these books. So I'm really enjoying it. It's television that I look forward to watching because I'd like a little bit more of the story. And if it gets to the end, like genuinely, if it gets to the end and it's all just like, oh bloody hell, I will tell you. And and I will fall on my sword quite happily and just go, all right then, that was a nice ride, and the end.
Look, I mean, I hope it doesn't. Mm-hmm. I mean, I hope it does, but I hope it doesn't because I don't want you to waste your time. Yeah. But yeah, I
don't feel it's a waste. Genuinely, I don't feel it's a waste of time because I'm enjoying spending time with the people. I'm enjoying the world. So.
Yeah, but when you spend time pulling back a car, you want it to kind of toy car. You want it to go forwards at the end.
Yeah, you do. I know you do. What are we doing next?
Poker Face.
Oh, Poker Face. Yeah, God, it's really diverse, isn't it, actually?
The long-awaited Poker Face.
Natasha Lyonne, and what's his name? I was just about to say his name. I can't remember his name. Knives Out.
Adrian Brody.
No, not Adrian. Well, yes, Adrian Brody.
Oh, but Ryan Johnson.
Ryan Johnson, that's it. Ryan Johnson.
So this is...
Coming together at last.
Yeah, this is a murder mystery procedural drama.
In the style of the old 70s procedurals, in the style of Littlest Hobo and Columbo and The Incredible Hulk.
The Littlest fucking Hobo?
Yes, it's got that.
I'd go Murder, She Wrote, but Littlest Hobo.
But,
yeah.
like, it's got that real... that graininess to it.
Like Skippy, the bush kangaroo.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't have said that. I would only... No, not that one.
No, not that one.
Not that one. But that grainy... Every week they're travelling to a new place.
Lassie.
And they've got to... No, not like... Okay. I wish I hadn't said the Littlest Hobo now, but you know exactly what I mean. You know exactly
Wouldn't be the first example.
Even to the point where when the credits come up, it's in that old style big block lettering, and it's got the Roman numerals underneath, as you would have in, like you say, your Murder, She Wrote, your Columbus, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think it's a loving tribute to those old school... I mean, I've never really watched them, considering how much I love murder mysteries. I've never seen... I've seen one episode of Columbo, which has, I think, Donald Sutherland in.
Wow.
Playing, like, a pair of brothers, so you never know which one's the... which one's the baddie. I've never seen Murder, She Wrote. I've never seen Morse. So
yeah,
I've never seen
your murder mystery knowledge. It's like there's a huge gap, isn't there?
I've never seen Death in Paradise. I've never seen what's the one that my mum and dad like?
Midsummer Murders.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do love a murder mystery. Like I love Lions Out. I love Glass Onion. I love...
just the Ryan Johnson ones.
Yeah. I love See How She Runs. I don't love it, but I think it was passable.
Do you ever seen any of like the Agatha Christie's?
Yes, I've seen Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile.
Yeah. Just the films.
And because you never made me watch the old
TV
versions.
show, yeah.
And we watched one year and then there was none.
Oh,
when
yes,
that was a BBC
when that was
adaptation.
on the BBC, yeah.
But no, I don't know.
Okay.
I've never seen The Mousetrap. I've never seen Murder in Success. No, Murder Successful. That's a different thing. What's the other one that the trilogy? There's like 3 old school Poirot films that you have on our Sky Plus.
Oh, so I have Oh, I know what you're thinking of. So we've got Death on the Nile,
Yeah.
Murder on the Orient Express, and there's one when they're all on holiday, and I cannot remember
And
what
I've got
it
Death
is.
in Paradise in my
Yeah,
head.
yeah.
and,
They're all, oh, this is going to absolutely drive me mad. I'll come back to it later. I'm sure it'll pop up at some point later in the podcast, hopefully.
But yeah, this is...
Evil Under the Sun.
Thank you. There we go. Death in Paradise. Evil Under the Sun.
Evil Under the Sun. Right.
So, but this is Natasha Lyonne. When she starts, she's working in a Las Vegas casino, and she is enlisted by them to help them fleece a gambler. Because the gimmick of her is she can always read when people are lying.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Did you ever watch Psych?
As in, let's get ready to rumble.
No.
Watch us wreck the mic. Watch us wreck the mic. Psych. No, not an Ant and Dec reference.
No. So that is...
Psych. I can't even think what that would be on.
So it was an American TV show from mid-2000s, and it's about someone who can read someone really well, tell when they're lying, but he convinces the police that he's a psychic. So
Right,
he can read body language and sort of
Yeah,
see
yeah.
that, but convinces them he's a psychic. It's
Like
got
a Darren Brown type of person.
yeah, it's got a guy who I can't remember in, but his sidekick is Julia Hill, who played in The West Wing Charlie. This is very much the same concept. We've seen the first 2 episodes of this, and I'm a huge fan of this. You need nothing to me is not.
I'm just letting you go.
Yeah.
Well, tell me why.
So I love the setup. I think Natasha Lyonne is obviously brilliant in this. She brings a real cynical energy to everything she does. Talking from like even in the American Pie films through to Orange is the New Black to what's the thing that I can't remember the name of?
Oh, where
Russian Doll.
Russian Doll. I'm just doing that with my finger,
Yeah.
which no one can say.
Yeah. And obviously she is an MVP. She goes from place to place in this. So for reasons that come clear in the first one, she then moves on to a different town. She gets involved with a new mystery, and I love the fact that she's just passing through town. There's a very bit of Jack Reacher about it, of someone who's just passing through town and gets involved in someone else's shit. Speaking of Fast X, the connection to Jack Reacher there. But yeah. I am absolutely addicted to this. I could definitely watch all episodes in a day. I get the feeling you're not as hot on this as I am.
I'm not. I've been trying to work out what it is, but I haven't been. I'm really enjoying it. When we sit together and watch it,
Yes.
I think this is a very well-made show. Natasha Lyonne is great. Like I do kind of get the sense though now that she is playing Natasha Lyonne though, so I don't really get the sense that there's a different character.
Yes.
I think we might be in danger of going a little bit one note.
Okay.
But anyway, park that to one side. I think they're very intricate. They're really enjoyable. I'm really enjoying the cameos
Yes.
that are popping up. So you mentioned Adrian Brody. There's loads of others, like Benjamin Bratt's in it. Hong Chau's in the second episode. So there's going to be absolutely loads as we go through, and I think that's part of the beauty of it as well. I think I'm just not very emotionally drawn to it. And I don't know whether that's just because I'm not really getting to know anyone that's involved, because it's really just her and then this new cast of characters. I really liked the initial friendship that she has with one of the characters in the first episode, who was also in Orange is the New Black. That actress, whose name I don't know. I'm sure you're going to look it up for me now.
It's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah. And I really like that friendship, but then that obviously the plot means that that friendship doesn't subsist, so you sort of lose that.
Yeah, Dasha Polanco.
That's it.
She plays Daniara.
Yeah.
The one who's pregnant early on.
In Orange is the New Black. Yeah. So I think I just haven't really got anything to hang my hat on emotionally at the moment.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because there is an ongoing narrative. There is a thread that goes through these episodes, which, I mean, maybe...
It just feels a bit... I think this is what I'm trying... I think it feels a bit cold and a bit clinical. And I suspect that is the case with many of the shows that we've referenced from like the 70s, but I suppose we know those characters longer, we know their little ticks, and you know, who doesn't love Angela Lansbury and Cabot Cove. So I just it's from Murder, She Wrote. Maybe I just need a little bit more time with it, but I haven't felt compelled to watch another. You know, sometimes when you are doing something, I will watch a programme behind the scenes be very annoying with it. I haven't felt like I wanted to do that with this, but maybe it's because I want to sit with you and enjoy the mystery.
Yes.
With you. So I think it's great, don't get me wrong. I really think it's great. I think everyone, you know, we've been waiting for it. It's really good that it's here. But I wonder whether there was a bit too much build-up. And I just haven't been swept away with it the way that I have with other shows. Because
this has been out in the US since, I think, the start of the year. It was out in January.
Oh, yeah, I've been waiting for it for ages, haven't we?
Yeah. So,
nobody knew where it was going to land. And then suddenly it was like, oh, right, it's coming out.
Oh, here we go, Sky. Yeah. But yeah, I could watch them all back to back. But yeah, I won't.
Thanks.
Thanks. We'll see. I will definitely finish this. We'll see whether you do, I guess.
Oh, I'm sure I will. If I sit with you and if we watch it together, I absolutely will.
Okay. Succession.
Finishing off with a big one.
Yes.
The end of Succession. 3 series and then the huge finale.
And then a fourth one.
Oh,
then
no!
The finale.
I knew you were looking at me funny. 4 series and a finale. Obviously, I don't have to go through this. Anyone's listened to us rabbiting on about Succession over the years. We've absolutely loved Succession right from the beginning. Actually, I think we were quite early adopters, and I like to get that in there. I'm quite early adopters of Succession before everyone and their aunt.
I would dispute that. We watched it in the gap between season 1 and season 2.
Yeah, but still, we haven't just come along at the end of, you know.
So I think you talk about Succession like this is something that everyone watches, and I don't think that's the case.
Right, okay.
I think this is something that we watch, and a lot of the people who we follow on Twitter and like listen to podcasts about watch. But I know a lot of people who are like, I've never even heard of this.
Yeah, and that you're absolutely right, because one of our mates came around the other week and we were talking about Succession and they hadn't heard of Succession and I couldn't believe that they hadn't. It was almost like a bit of like, but aren't you listening to the 50,000 podcasts that are out there, all of, you know, analysing Succession and reading the Guardian reviews and reading the Reddits? Like, no, you're not, mate. That's much better for you.
Yes.
So
just to clarify this, so we've talked about this before. This is the TV show that is kind of aping a family business that is similar to that of the Disneys or the Murdochs, a news empire, as parks, a holidays, and the patriarch of the family runs it at the beginning, very much like Rupert Murdoch, shall we call him? And finding out who of his 4 children is going to inherit the business when he inevitably steps down because he is getting on in life. And that's basically what happens over 4 seasons. And people are in his favour, people are not. He is a cranky old bastard all the way through. And yeah, I think this has been a universally praised finale. When it finished, you turned around and said, well, that was perfection.
Yep.
I liked it. I think it stuck the landing. I have issues with it.
Okay. Are there issues that you think you can talk about without going into spoilers?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
My issue is that this, for too long, descended into farce.
Right, you're going to have to explain that.
There are scenes that is very, very broad comedy, which I was like, I don't believe this would happen. It almost seems like something from I Think You Should Leave. And I know that they're there to provide some levity. And I don't know, you're looking at me confused, like you can't understand what I'm talking about.
No, it's not that. And I want you to have your time to say it. I think my initial reaction, and that's what you're seeing on my face, my initial reaction is that this show has always been a dark comedy as well as a drama. So there've always been scenes of very broad humour. There have always been, a lightness of touch as well as some very, very
I'm
difficult.
I'm very aware of that. I don't think that this took place in this situation. I thought this was absolutely out of place in the show, and it stuck out like a sore thumb to me, and I think it would have been a better finale for me without two scenes in particular.
Okay.
One of which at the very, very end, which takes place in the office, one of which takes place in a kitchen. Just to give you a hint about what...
I know where you're going from. I think both of those scenes that you're referring to are incredibly emotionally powerful scenes. And I think they're really, really true to those characters and where they are at that point in their life. I don't see them, because I know the scenes that you're talking about, I don't see them as broad comedy. I see them as actually very sad. I really have read them as two very, very sad moments, and one which is throwing back to a childhood that was never had, and possibly at the end as well, and it is really a post-mortem of the way that a parent can be so toxic that the children act out in a particular way. Okay,
so I will, without going into any spoilers, I will say my feelings. The Feed the King scene did not work for me on any level. And I have since found out that was the last scene that they filmed, and it seemed like kids on the end of term to me. And it absolutely stuck out like a sore thumb. Okay. I wanted it to end. It just seemed like, could we get on and stop? It looked like people really enjoying themselves on film, and like I can still, like, you see kids pissing about on the last day of school. That's what I would compare it to, and that didn't work for me. And then there is another scene when there is a vote and people leave the boardroom, and a scene goes on in the outside, and that just did not work for me. Okay. I did not believe that would happen in any way, even with those characters and the baggage they carry. I loved it, but compared to everyone else, I'm a bit softer than everyone else.
It's really interesting, because I've not heard anyone else, even people who, maybe, obviously a lot of the places that I go will be universally positive about it, because it's a show that they're really, really invested in, and they're interviewing like the people who've written it, so they're hardly going to go, oh yeah, that scene there, I really did not believe that. Should have had your scissors through that.
Exactly.
They're not going to do that, and for all the right reasons. But it's really fascinating that you've picked those things, because my perspective on it is so different. And I find it fascinating that you could read it in that way, or you would have such a strong reaction to it as well. It's not just, oh, I thought it was great, but maybe I just didn't quite. You can see it in your face that you feel very strongly about these particular things. It might just be that I've been told that these aren't comedy moments, and I'm wrong for disliking them because they're very incredibly powerful. No, I'm not saying that you're. I'm not saying that you're. I say I disagree with you, because that's not my experience of the show, and I'm sad that you're kind of like not on the same page as me, because it would be nice, wouldn't it, for us both to say, oh yeah, we really love these things.
No, I think it makes better podcasting this way, but
but yeah, I'm not having a go. I'm not like saying, oh Mark, you don't like all I'm saying is we are coming at it from very, very different perspectives, I think.
Yes. Yeah, okay. Do you want to get into spoilers?
Yeah, I'm happy to do so.
Okay, well, if you're leaving us here, and I really would recommend, if you've not seen Succession, turn off the podcast now, but once you've listened to our little outgoing blurb, which will be the same as every week, and please just watch it. It's on Sky, it's all on Sky at the minute, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't seen Succession at all, like, start from the beginning, work your way through, it's a treat.
Orthodox.
It will... Thanks. It will drive you mad. There will be times where, I mean, I bite my nails anyway, but I find myself like where my nails are like bleeding because I get to the end of an episode and I'm just so like it makes me anxious, but in a really good way. It's like, you know, that sort of level of anxiety where you get to the end and you realise that you've not been breathing for a while, but then you like let go and you're like, oh my God, this is just so well written. Like, this is just so well constructed. You can't believe that 4 series of essentially the same plot could keep you entertained for that. Like, you know, it is essentially one thing, as you very well described.
Yeah.
Old bloke has 4 kids. Which one's going to take over? Like, it's such a simple premise, and yet every episode there's twists, there's movement, there's machinations. It's, you know, full of like the Godfather types of, there's pairings, then there's splits, and it's and I find it just absolutely wonderful. I'm not sure I could go back and watch it all again because it would just be too much.
This podcast?
Yes, I do remember. Yes, okay, carry on, Mark. Yeah. So yeah, start from the beginning, work to the end. There you go.
So yeah, thank you for listening. If you would like to follow us on Instagram or Twitter, we are at the Honeymoon Pod. And if you'd like to leave us a rating on Spotify, or Pocket Cast now has ratings as well.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
Or drop us a review on Apple Podcasts. That would be much appreciated. And we'll see you next time.
Bye. So, spoilers for Succession, and I think we might as well say all 4 series of Succession because we might say something, but definitely the finale.
Kind of weird if we dropped.
Well, you never know.
I mean, someone was 2. Like, "Oh, my family spoiled the end," but if you spoil episode 5 of season 6, there isn't a season 6, but yeah,
there might be under my view.
Yeah,
I'll be making up all sorts of seasons. Okay, so you hate the is it King? Oh, I can't even remember what it was, but it's sort of King for a Day, or Meal for a King, or Drink for a King, or whatever. Where they put it all in the, they put lots of things in the blender, including Siobhan's spit, lovely, and then Jeremy Strong drinks it.
Like,
and apparently,
watching kids who had too many cider lollies on a school trip.
Like, honestly, I'm not having a go, but isn't that the entire point of it? Isn't the point that they're being children for the first time in their lives? They're in their mum's house. They've made this decision, this really difficult decision that no one really wants to make, but they've anointed him as the king, and now they're having the childhood probably that they never had. They probably didn't have an opportunity to run around the kitchen and put things in a blender and lick cheese. And I just felt that it was a real return to childhood, which made sense for the characters at the time. I know that you don't agree with me.
That sounds like a really meaningful thing. I didn't get it. I just saw people being dickheads.
Okay.
And I wish I'd had that reaction but yeah, I just saw people being annoying on screen.
Okay.
I just wanted to get on with it. It felt self-indulgent to me. The other thing is the boardroom fight after during the vote.
Did you? I don't understand how. So explain to me why you didn't believe it, because I thought, again, obviously I've gone through this, that I thought it was very believable that she just wanted a moment. Shiv just wanted a moment out of the vote. She might have not even changed her mind on her vote. She just needed to take a minute, and then you get Kendall coming in and just getting at her and making her, essentially making it easy for her to go, you know what, I love you but I can't stand you, you know, and all of that coming out. If that was
where it ended, it
was the fight.
It was the fight, which seemed, police just going past, seemed like something from Bottom to me. It seemed like a farce again. It seemed like a farce, and they didn't ring true to me. Okay. I didn't believe that in those circumstances, those people would get into that situation. Even
though the stakes were just so, you know, that was the highest of the stakes, particularly for Kendall. It's like, this is all he's wanted all his life. It's what he's been promised since he was 7. And they're about to take it away from him. There's no coming back from it now. Once the company is sold, he can't get it back. It's not like, oh, someone else is going to be the CEO and he can come into it. Did you not feel that level of? Obviously, you didn't feel that level of tension, and there was just nowhere else from him to go then, but to be physical. That's where I got it.
No, it seemed like a misstep to me, and I didn't enjoy that part of it. I rolled my eyes and thought, I didn't want this to descend into this sort of, yeah.
How did you feel about the ending for each of the characters? You know, Roman with his martini, Shiv placing her hand on the the king's hand and Kendall sitting at the, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I'm still to this day concerned for Kendall.
Do you know that there was another another shot where Jeremy Strong ran towards the ocean to chuck himself in, and Colin ran after him, and in all in character. Yeah, that he just felt that he had nothing left to live for. It doesn't
surprise me, and I think it's more meaningful to leave it where they did.
I agree. Yeah.
I think the shot of Shiv with Tom, the King Tom, was incredibly powerful.
Very Godfather-esque, actually.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I keep thinking about that.
And I think that was absolutely perfect. And I think the meaning behind Roman ordering a martini and just sitting there with a smile, I think is an absolutely beautiful ending. So I have absolutely no problem with the three endings. I think it was I think I agree that those three endings were absolutely perfection. I also agree that putting it on Tom was the best thing for
Did
everyone.
you think that would happen? Because I had no idea that that's where it was going to go, and people were obviously mooting it because people were saying everything.
Yes,
people were saying Cousin Greg was going to get it, and I was like, I just cannot understand that. But the way that it was delivered was so clever that it made it believable that he will be a stooge for Matson.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the way that I understand it, this is taken from real life, where just some middle-ranking person gets put it over a woman, gets put in, and they just do the bidding of the other person who's and this is how the corporate ladder works, where someone who really isn't sort of suited for that job just gets it.
I've seen it in places I work in. Like look at my LinkedIn history and work it through it. But I've seen similar things happen.
I think we all have in the workplace.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, we were one of the few people who enjoyed the last episode of Line of Duty, which was very much spoilers for Line of Duty now, but I'm not going to say it exactly. But there is someone of incompetence shown to be in a massive amount of power, and we discussed on this very podcast. What did we call it? Urgent exit required.
Urgent exit required.
Yeah. And we said how that's what happens.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that it was Shiv that almost persuaded him in trying to dissuade what's his name? Matson.
Alexander Skarsgård.
Yes. And trying to dissuade him, actually persuaded him that he was the right person, and you can see the light switch go in his eyes. And I think the fact that I think a couple of silly scenes I would look away from on most TV shows, but I think they nailed everything else so perfect that those two scenes absolutely stood out for me.
Okay. But didn't stop your enjoyment of the show, should
No, absolutely not.
Just that yours, I think this is my reading of it, that everyone's saying 5 stars, 6 stars, give it 6 stars. And you're someone who's coming along and going, actually, we can be critical. These things did not work for me.
Yeah. But absolutely. If I would have bitten your hand off for a series finale as good as I took out of it.
Yeah. And I feel it sort of come to a conclusion as well. I have no sense of I want to follow the story on. I just feel like now it's done. And the easiest thing in the world would be to what happens next and just keeping it going. But I think it was a really conclusive ending without doing. It's really difficult to describe, isn't it? Without really cleverly shutting all doors. There's so many things that were left open. There's so many characters we didn't see that we've seen for many episodes. It's not a neat ending, is what I'm trying to say.
I think everyone got them. I mean, I think Connor also got it was a very Connor ending.
Oh yeah.
However, I did enjoy seeing him on the video, sat around the table with these captains of industry that have been with us all the way through.
That are Logan's friends, essentially, even though he says, to Colin, you're my best friend. But this is who he
Jerry
hangs
is
out
Ship's
with.
godmother.
And
Carl is Roman's or something like that. Yeah.
And this is who he hangs out with, because who else would... And he's got his girlfriend there, and he's got his son, his oldest son, who takes the mick out of him and, does him a little... That was very telling, wasn't it? That Connor knew that... I'm almost with Brian Cox. That knew that Logan Roy had bought a mausoleum.
Yes.
And he knew, and no one else knew it. And he was just there at the meal.
Yeah.
That's where he just hung out with his dad.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really interesting when you think back to what Connor says when his dad dies, and he just straight away just went, he never liked me, and it's almost like this immediate reaction, and then Connor goes off and gets married, and so almost like parks it.
Yeah.
But that makes sense, I suppose, when you think, well, he spent all that time with him, and he's sort of come to there is no major rift, or there's nothing there like that the other three have had.
Yes.
Where they maybe haven't spoken to him for a while, or the last thing that they said to him was at the karaoke bar, that sort of thing. I thought it kind of I couldn't quite get my head around Connor saying, oh, he never liked me. But yeah, it's just fascinating that you can go back and think about all these. Like, at no other show would I go back and think, oh, when Connor says this in episode 3, I wonder how that relates to when he's standing outside the mausoleum. Like, no way would I do that. I wouldn't be linking those things up at all. I wouldn't be remembering it.
Yeah.
So it's so remarkable, the writing, I think.
I mean, there are a couple of spin-offs that I'd like to see.
Like?
I would like... I'd like to see Ebba's upcoming lawsuit against Matson.
Yeah.
I would quite like to see a remake of Secretary with Roman and Jerry, but in flipped roles.
I was a little bit sad that we didn't get to see more of Roman and Jerry. I understand there were other other scenes that were filmed that didn't make the cut.
Yes.
And I do think there perhaps could have been a little bit more of Roman and Jerry. I would have liked to. And I think J. Smith Cameron's amazing, so I would have liked to have seen a bit more of her.
And finally, I would like to see, was it Jonathan, pitching his business plan around other families.
Who's Jonathan?
Is he the friend of the mum and Peter? Who,
yes. Sorry. You know why I don't know him? Because he just appears in the last episode for like 5 minutes. I mean, that actor did really well, didn't he? He was like, oh, I'm just going to be in the finale of Succession.
Yeah.
God.
I want to know what his business plan is.
I really
we never got to find
loved Harriet Walters as Dame Caroline Collingwood, and I love the fact she's a Collingwood. Because
definitely the best show she's been in this year.
For those at home, Harriet Walters is also in Silo, doing a really bad American accent. Actually, she's much better at a clipped English. And then the guy that plays Peter, the smarmy, slimy owner of the care homes, who clearly doesn't give a shit about the residents. I can't remember who he is, but he's really, really good. And they deserve each other, both of them. And quite comedic as well, the way that they go on.
Yes.
And totally believable as well, that she would just be on Peter's side all the time. Oh, look at him. Oh, look at... Oh, isn't he wonderful? And he's... Like, when he's at the funeral, he's very excited.
He's got his autograph.
And you could totally imagine that sort of... that relationship. It just totally rings true to me. So yeah.
But yeah, like I have problems with the finale.
But when you say you have problems with the finale, you didn't like a couple of scenes. I don't think it's like a major issue, is it? It's not like a...
If I was allowed to finish my sentence, that would have been my... I had problems with it, but yeah, I still think this is one of my top 5 finales to a TV. And I like a lot of finales that everyone else thinks is shit.
Like?
I think the Lost... There's nothing wrong with the Lost episode.
No, I agree.
Finale. And I think people who misquote that all the time as and don't understand, having maybe need to re-see it and understand the context of how everything happens. I like the How I Met Your Mother finale, which everyone else says is awful. Mm-hmm. The aforementioned Line of Duty finale, we really liked. Yeah. Anyway.
Any more?
No, not for me.
So, Should we say goodbye?
We've already done that, so
Okay.
yes. End. No, thanks a lot for listening. Let us know what to watch next, because what's the next session?
Silo. It's not. It's really not. I've just put this on. But yeah, what should we be watching next?
I want to make you watch. I think you should leave.
I might watch. I'll watch one and see how I get on with it. Pick one for me that you think I'll like. But I'm not watching hours and hours of.
But it's not hours and hours. It's 15
comedy.
minutes.
Yeah, but you put it together. You said it was like 90 minutes. Well, hour and a bit. But yeah, I just not comedy for me. Look, something dark and nasty is what I want. I want something that I can get my teeth into, like Succession.
Right. Well, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.